Hi there. Let's talk about toddlers and toddler development. So toddlers are generally, anything over about 18 months to 2 years and goes into into the threes. So it's really kind of the twos and threes, especially, and then we start calling them preschoolers, right? So um, in that 2 to 3 range, toddlers are just starting to recognize that potentially they aren't the same person as you. So as infants, they've really used you as a resource and looked to you for everything. And so they kind of are an extension of you in those infancy years. And in the toddler years, they get the concept, even if they can't articulate it, they start to think of themselves as potentially having a self, and what they get in touch with is their will. And if we think about what our sort of cultural dialogue is around toddlers, is that we call them terrible. We say they throw tantrums, which kind of indicates that there's no reason for what they're doing. And oftentimes there is no detectable external cause for the tantrum, right? Like they tell you they want, I don't know, pasta for dinner. They tell you they want macaroni and cheese, and then you give them macaroni and cheese and they're upset, right? So it seems like there's no reason for this. But part of what they're doing is they're getting in touch with their own feelings, their own desires. So they're trying to figure out what that feels like and what those feelings inside of them mean. And they can get really super frustrated with it. They also don't have a lot of language at this point. So the whole experience is just entirely difficult. And so, but the dialogue that we usually hear about that is, the terrible twos. And this kind of comes from authoritarian parenting folks who felt that that this was just evidence of bad behavior, that this was something that needed to be corrected and squashed immediately. But if we think about what they're trying to do, that toddlers are trying to form a self-identity, and the question they're really asking you as toddlers is it okay to be me with you, or am I supposed to be an extension of you? Right? That's the transition they're making, is from being an extension of you to finding out that potentially they're their own selves, and they're, through their behaviors and their actions, they're asking you, is it okay with you that I am me? And so another way then to frame this is to perceive our toddlers as these little buckets of intense will and emotion, and how do we want them to think about themselves, their desires, their wants, their needs, how to communicate what you want and need. Do we want them to think that they're an extension of us and that they need to fall in line and step in with our beliefs? Or are we going to try to set the stage for them growing into their own individuality? So this account is very much about helping children grow into their own sense of themselves. I know that my experience as a kid was that my parents tried very hard to mold me and to form me into the person they wanted me to be. And all along internally, I knew that I was my own person. And the message that I got was that the person that I was not what they wanted to see. And it was not acceptable. I had to perform this other person. And I think psychology is very clear with us in this realm that this generally causes damage, right? It makes it hard for people to know themselves. Instead, we dissociate from our needs and wants. We tend to start performing roles. This tends to be very unfulfilling, and this can just cause problems later with, people having to reclaim some of this stuff. And often it ends up causing disconnect between the parents and their children. And so these toddler years are an important one. They are not the only one, though. So if you're watching this and your kids are older than this, not all is not lost. But the first moment that we get a chance to really double down on our perspective of what we think parenting is, and what the goal of parenting is relative to our children. Are we trying to control them and create people who will conform, or are we trying to create people who understand their own needs and can advocate for those and can make their own choices and come from a position of autonomy. So my feeling is that, the latter, that we're trying to establish a sense that, we want to answer that question that toddlers are asking us. Are you okay with me being me? We want to say, yes, I'm okay with you being you. And we also want to teach them what it is to be a human being and being in relationship with other people. So they do need boundaries, they do need guidance, they do need skills, and they are asking us to give them these things when they're toddlers. So this is getting long, I want to stop, but I hope this helps in terms of setting a foundation for starting to think about your narrative about your toddlers and how you want to parent and what you're parenting for. Okay, good luck out there.